Waiting to go live. Yeah, hi, and welcome to the third week of the September Self-Care Challenge, or the Self-Care Starter Kit that this is going to become. And this week we're going to talk about how we start to self-care. So the first week we talked about what is self-care. The second week we talked about why it's so important and the fascinating research behind caregiver fatigue and empathetic resonance, and why it's so important for us to learn these practices to self-care to regulate our nervous system so that we can help, through our mirror neurons, regulate other people's nervous systems. So this week we're going to start to talk about how to start to self-care. So basically we're talking about the MindFitness method of self-care. And this is a method that I have formulated on mindfulness-based therapies that have got lots of evidence that they work, such as acceptance and commitment therapy, Rick Hanson's positive neuroplasticity, the mindful self-compassion meditation course that I teach, and many more mindfulness practices that I've studied for many years and practice myself. And so it's basically based on how we rewire our brains. And so we are so much of our lives on kind of autopilot. We're in that part of our brain called the default mode network that is like a super highway in our brains. And we're just in that pattern of reactivity, not knowing what we're doing and how we are responding, or even not actually being aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, any of those things. And so that's just how we are hardwired to be. And we're hardwired for being Velcro for negative and Teflon for positive. And so we're kind of just on the super highway in our brains. And so what this mind fitness model of self-care is that it helps us to rewire our brains to form new neural pathways that actually help us deal with our caregiving challenges and our stress. And so they help us develop inner resources. And so what we can do is that we can start to slow down on the superhighway, become aware of what's around us in our autopilot mode. I'm sure we've all been in that autopilot mode, not knowing how we've got from A to B, not knowing why we're starting to yell at our children or react to our husbands in this way the whole time. Or so what that allows us to do is to slow down and then make a choice to actually develop these other resources in our lives, and then go on another pathway and develop inner resources to help us cope with life. Another analogy that I got told the other day is like if you ever go skiing and you're always going a particular route because it feels safe, it feels comfortable, it's a well-worn track. But maybe sometimes when you get to that top of that chairlift, you may decide that you'd like to kind of go another route and find out different things about yourselves and rewire your brain in that way. So that's that neuroplasticity. The third way that I talk about it is about Rick Hanson talks about the garden of the mind. And so we look at, if we imagine our brains or our minds being like a garden, what we do is that we go and look at our gardens. So we come into the present moment, and we let it be. We observe the garden in all of its glory. And then sometimes we may like to, there's some weeds in this garden. And so you let it be, you let the gardens be in all its glory, and then you might want to let go the weeds in your mind. And that's that's the process of slowing down on the superhighway. But then you might want to develop those inner resources in your mind. And so you might want to grow some flowers, and you may want to let it in and grow these new flowers in the gardens of your mind. And so this is the garden of the mind, is what this MindFitness method of self-care is based around. And they're basically micro self-care practices. So they're not practices that you do off the job, they're practices that you do on the job, in the moment, in your challenges, to deal with your caregiving challenges or to deal with any stress in your life. And you can do it as a system, as we're going to go through next, or you can just remember what the SOARING system is, and to go through it in your mind. So the SOARING system. So SOAR is about letting it be and letting it go. And basically that is the definition of mindfulness. So mindfulness is about coming into the present moment with an attitude of curiosity, acceptance, and non-judgment. So SOAR is an acronym for mindfulness. SOAR is the way that we slow down on that default mode network and become aware of our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors. We become aware of how we're responding and reacting in life, and how things have been set up for us from the way we grew up, just becoming an awareness of why we behave in the way that we do and what thoughts and emotions are behind that. So S of SOAR is that we surrender to our senses to come into the present moment. And so this is, other people talk about this as grounding strategies. So we have essentially 5 senses. And so when we're caught in the fog of everything going on around us, basically what we do is that we anchor ourselves by coming to our senses. So our sense of sensations, so the sensations of the soles of our feet, or the sensations of our breath, or the senses of our hearing, or our taste, or our smell, or our sight. So just stopping and coming to our senses. And so, yeah, so basically I kind of also explain this in the way that, we have everybody has challenges in life. Life gets lifey, as a friend of mine has said. And what we do is that we respond and we react. And a lot of the time what we do is that we resist what's present in our lives. We resist and it persists, or we strive to do better, or we beat ourselves up all the time about the challenges in our life. And what that does too is it brings up our thoughts and emotions in front of our face, so that we can't see where we're going. We can't hug children in our lives. We can't see that sunrise. And so what soaring does is that, because we're in the fog of our thoughts and emotions, we need to anchor ourselves into the present moment so that we can look at these thoughts and emotions. And so we come to our senses, we take that breath, we listen to the birds, we taste our food, we smell the roses, or we look at 3 things in our environment. And then that allows us to observe our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors. And we can observe them like a curious scientist. So we can create some space to see, those thoughts create those emotions, and they create those corresponding sensations. And so when we have an emotion. It has its cognitive part of it, so the thoughts that generate that emotion, and the feeling part in our body. And so then we can start to observe our feelings in our body. We can see where it is in our bodies. We can see whether they're moving or they're still, or they've got a temperature, or we can just really observe it like we would observe a painting on a wall or down a microscope. And then we release the thoughts. So we release the resisting thoughts. So then we release the resisting thoughts, we release the striving, and we release our inner critic. And so we release it to let it be. So we let it go to let it be, and we're observing it. And so that is SOAR, the mindfulness in action. It helps us slow down on that default mode network and to observe things for what they are and to let them be. And then we can decide that we don't just want to soar, we want to go soaring. Hi Estelle, sorry I'm a bit late. So then we want to go soaring, and so we want to thrive in our lives. We want to get off that default mode network in our brains, and we want to choose a different pathway. We want to choose to develop inner resources to cope with our challenges in life. And so when we are aware of our emotions and our thoughts that are contributing to that, and how we're our behaviors, we can ask ourselves, or we can say to ourselves, this is really hard, how we're feeling. This is really, really challenging. So what do I need in the situation to care for myself? So you need, so that's investigating what inner resource you may need, or what inner resource you may want to cultivate in your life. And so we have lots of inner resources. We have the inner resource, and I'll go over the parts of the brain that we rewire in a minute. We have the inner resource of mindfulness, which is what we've just done. We have the inner resource of self-compassion, gratitude, courage, grit, all of these inner resources. So asking yourself, what do I need in this moment? So, for example, we may want to grow that inner resource of gratitude, of watching a sunrise on your morning walk. And so then what you do is that the N of soaring, so we've gone through the S, O, A, R, and the I, investigating what inner resource we need. And the N of soaring is the nourishing of it. And so there's a lot of research that shows that what we need to do is to nourish the positive emotions in our life, to nourish the positive, because our brains are like Teflon for positive and Velcro for negative. And so we need to really savor those experiences when we have it. So we're watching the sunrise, and we nourish it with our senses. So we don't just go, there's a sunrise, and then go on with our day. We go, there's a sunrise. What can I see? What are the colors of the sunrise? What is around me? I might be watching the sunrise at the beach. Can I hear the lapping of the water? Can I really hear the bird song? Do I feel the sand beneath my feet? What do I smell? Is there newly cut grass here? What do I see? All the different textures, as we were talking about before. So you really stop. And research shows that what we really need to do is to give it 3 to 5 breaths to form those new pathways in our brains. And so we sit with it, and we let it savor, and we nourish it with our breath. So that's what the soaring system is. And so you can take little pieces. You can take tiny little pieces. You don't have to do it in order, but it's a way to remember how we can do these processes of neuroplasticity. So S is that we use our senses to anchor us into the present moment. O is that that helps us to observe our thoughts, how our thoughts cause our emotions and our behaviors and the sensations in our body. A is how we can accept and allow and open up around our emotions. There's some things called soften, soothe, allow, and then releasing the thoughts that are around that emotion. There's techniques called cognitive diffusion that you can do to release those thoughts, like thoughts in the balloon, or there's lots of different things that I've talked about before. Then you investigate, what inner resource do I need? You nourish it, you savor it, and you give it 3 breaths. So this is my MindFitness method of self-care, which I developed. And basically, once we've done the soar and then we're doing the soaring, what we're actually doing is that we are rewiring the 3 different parts of our brain by the inner resources that we're developing. So we talked about the parts of the brain before, the wandering vagal nerve, coming to our autonomic nervous system at the base of our brain. And that system's all about avoiding harm and all about safety. And so what we do is that we look at recognizing emotions with self-compassion, regulating our nervous system with calm. These are the inner resources that we develop in our MindFitness method of self-care. We resource ourselves with grit to deal with those challenges. And also we respond to others with courage. So these are things that I've taught in my MindFitness Yin Yoga. It's going to do lots of courses on these different inner resources and how to develop them and how to rewire this part of our brain. And we can also learn about this in the courses in the MindFitness Gym membership. And then we also have the next part of our nervous system, which is our emotional brain, our limbic nervous system, which is about contentment, approaching rewards. And in this one, we have the inner resources of recognizing what is true with mindfulness, regulating our emotions with gratitude. A lot of us have got a gratitude practice. Motivation is one of that in that nervous system, and aspiration is the last one. And then we have our higher brain centers, our prefrontal cortex. And so this one is all about learning, confidence, intimacy, and generosity. And so we go through all of these systems in our MindFitness method of self-care, or the MindFitness method of self-care. I teach each of these in my MindFitness Yin Yoga. So we go through them slowly. We go through each different parts of the brain. Or else you can also get this. I will be doing lots of mini courses on how we can rewire different parts of our brain and develop inner resources, so you don't have to do it. And you just can pick and choose about which inner resources that you would like to develop. But going to start with basically how you go through the SOARING system will be the first course. But you can still do this through a lot of my MindFitness Yin Yoga that I have already uploaded on my MindFitness Doctor website. And I'd love you to also join me in my MindFitness Gym membership, which will be looking at all of this, how we learn the SOARING system, how we develop these inner resources, to deal with our challenges by rewiring different parts of our brain. So it's really, really, yeah, I find it really exciting, and I'm really so excited to share it with all of you in the Mind Fitness Doctor. So come to the website and join me. I'd love to see you there. The September Self-Care Challenge will be available for 1 more week for everybody, and then the course will go into the MindFitness Gym membership, or you can, if you haven't been able to finish it, you can purchase it through for a small fee through the MindFitness Gym, through the MindFitness courses. So yeah, namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for the September Self-Care Challenge. Thanks, Estelle, for being there right from the start. And yeah, I will see you next week. This week it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and so it's another good reason to talk about the September Self-Care Challenge. So next month we'll probably be kind of concentrating a little bit on mental health and how self-care can help with that. Okay, thank you. Namaste. May we accept the things we cannot change. May we have courage to change the things we can. And may we gain the wisdom to know the difference. Namaste.